I'm whispering because my roommate is home and he is here with his girlfriend, and I should have planned my day better. I was listening to Jim, the number of ASMR episodes that you guys get, and then week after week you come back. Did you notice we missed last week? I have a lot to say. Let's just get the fuck into it. Hurry up, let's go. Breathe in. Welcome to What the Fuchs with Jess Fuchs. Now breathe out. And scream. Because here's what's pissed Jess off this week. I mean, at this point, this podcast should sit in the ASMR category more than a comedy podcast. I have lined my lips, but I overlined them and there was no time to fix it. So now I feel like a Kardashian, and now I kind of understand how they are, who they are, why they are, when they are, because I am like, the confidence that I feel having a lined lip that is overlipped is lined. I understand it. I feel like a fucking bitch, not to mention the color. You know, a bright red is a confident color. It's the color of sports team. It's the color of, McDonald's, whatever. The bright red is a powerful color. However, the deep red, no one talks about that. It's bloodlust. It's vampiric. It's grungy. It's filthy. And you put on a deep red headband matching combo, lip combo, get out of town. Because I'm not feeling vibrant. I'm feeling evil. I'm feeling what's in Wicked, where she says wicked. Okay, so we missed last week because I was traveling between cities and I did not have time. I didn't even update the people, but I figured you'd all figure it out. Some of you follow me on Instagram. If you don't, I don't really know what you're doing. That's the truth, because this is just a side dish to the main dish, which is, I guess, the comedy that who knows, maybe Instagram is the charcuterie board and this is the hearty meal. I don't know how you delineate what each of these pieces of media that I provide is to you. But anyway, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. There's not too much to say, but there are a couple points I want to hit. This is just a general kind of company-wide update. It's like a memo. It's a company-wide memo, and this is not to be confused with a yearly review. That yearly review is coming. Okay, I think I'm going to do the yearly review probably next week or the week after, because the yearly review, the problem with that is I will be back in Sydney. That's kind of full circle. So the yearly review will be the first episode back in Sydney and the last episode of the year. And that is serendipity. That is, what would one say? Is kismet. I'm not Googling it. The 3 talking points of today's episode is a wrap up of New York City, a moment I was humbled in London, and then an observation about men. Those are the 3 things. And then once we're done with those 3 things, you go on with your day, I go on with mine. Peace be with all of us. Okay, now let's wrap up New York. I finished my week in New York. I packed all my shit. I lugged it to the airport. Now, when I say lugged it, when I travel, if I'm traveling for a short amount of time, I take a little bit of stuff and I take whatever can be physically carried to and fro from an airport via public transport. When I am traveling in a longer capacity and I know that I will probably purchase some items, I budget so that each time I go from one city to another in a major way, like to an airport, I can afford an Uber. Hey, is she an accountant? I'm an accountant. That's right. Not only am I CFO of Jess Fuchs Incorporated, but I'm also the CEO, the CMO, I don't even know if CMO is a thing. Chief, I'm head of people, I'm head of money, I'm head of me. Okay? And I'm head of you, if you're lucky. Disgusting. You're disgusting. Why would you say that? It's the lipstick. It's not my fault. And that's what I want you to know. Anything I say cannot and will not be used against me in a court of law. So it's 5 a.m. Now, here's the problem with international travel. And this is not the problem with international travel so much it is me, but I won't be taking this one on the chin. Problem is, I book a 10 a.m. flight and I go 10 a.m. I'll get to sleep in. And then I don't think about it. But 10 a.m. doesn't actually mean 10 a.m. sleep in. It means 10. Why did I just stop? I forgot the number 9. In this moment, I forgot the number 9. So it goes 10, 9, 8, right? That's 2 hours. But with TSA and with everything going on in the world, I go, you got to do the 3 hours. Maybe you go 2.5 if you're really kind of a everything happens for a reason kind of girl, but I'm not. I will strong arm you into doing what I need and the world will bend to my will kind of woman, okay? So I have to then be at the airport at 7. So I have to be at the airport at 7. I'm 45 minutes to an hour away. Now we're talking 6. But now we got to also get up, wash my face, kind of get dressed. We're talking 5:45. Okay, you got to add an extra 10 minutes on to just like actually do the things you forgot to do. Okay, so now we're talking 5:30. We're talking 5:30 a.m. a.m. Sickening. I mean, that's middle of my night. So get up 5:30. I'm in the cab by 6. I'm in the Uber. Let's go with the Uber because that's the truth. I'm in the Uber at 6. Now it's about a 45-minute hour to an hour drive. It's quiet. The man in the Uber is not playing any music. I get in, hello, good morning. And as you might remember, when I was getting in an Uber to go to the airport, the last time it was 6 a.m. was after the wedding when I was in Minnesota. And that's when the guy slammed the boot of the car on my head. And then I had a concussion for up until today, innumerable amount of time. We don't even know because I didn't go to a doctor. So I was wary of being in the Uber. It's also 6 a.m. I'm tired. I've slept maybe 5 hours. I don't even think that's true. Probably like 2 hours. So I get in the Uber. Hi, how are you? Put my shit in the back, sit down, sit behind him. Sit quietly. He doesn't put on music. I don't really care. I'm just going to like sleep. You know what I mean? So he's driving. And after about 20-25 minutes, I can tell he's locked in. He's just driving. You know, he's not thinking anything. And I make a sound in the back of the car. I like clear my throat. And I swear to God, this guy jumped out of his skin. I think he had locked in so hard to the directions because he obviously knew his way to JFK. And it was so quiet and so dark outside and so still that he forgot I was in the car. And he screamed because it's not like I'm like on the opposite side of him so that I'm in his rearview mirror. I'm right behind him. I'm ghost style, like making the pottery behind him, driving like a ghost to JFK, silent as a mouse. Because he was not a mouth breather, but the Uber driver I had a couple weeks earlier was a mouth breather. So neither of us forgot where we were. This guy, I can't even explain to you. He obviously forgot I was in the back and he shut himself. And I was like, and then I had to apologize. But it was one of those things where he tried to play it off cool and he was like, no, it's fine. Like, I'm like, no, you fully forgot I was in here, but I scared you and I reared my ugly head. And in some ways it feels like that's a metaphor for depression and sadness. Now you might forget that you might be someone who does get a little bit sad. And that is kind of the overarching, when I was leaving New York, I thought, wow, isn't that just a beautiful visual representation of how my deep sadness over the last 6 months has reared its head throughout? Because you guys know some of the times have been rough, and then sometimes I've had fun. And isn't that life? I think it's just a weird transitional period. I was trying to explain it to my friend. I'm 32. I just turned 32 in October. And in the last year to 2 years, a lot of my friends have settled down. They've had promotions at work. They've been doing all these things that are like adult adjacent. And I want to congratulate them. I never want to take someone else's success away. I think it's awesome. You do whatever you want. Get married, have children, whatever, I don't care. But there is this like social programming because I don't think it's like human, although maybe it is. We get our period at 14. So maybe there is a human, biological programming to like, you have to have children, you have to find your own cave and like, you know, set up a bonfire kind of energy. Because people do nest. Like even this time traveling versus like 4 years ago when I traveled, I am way more like, oh, I need my own bathroom, or I can't just live out of a suitcase as much. So I'm getting older and more stuck in my ways, which I assume that happens. I mean, we've all seen our parents just be like so rigid, you know? So there must be an evolutionary thing or just like a human thing of wanting stability, ? I don't know. If there's any sociologists out there or like people who would know about this, let me know. But I was trying to explain it to my friend because we were chatting and she decided she doesn't want to have children. She's been married and her husband went through the process of being like, I don't think it's for me. And we were talking about that. And I was saying, yeah, it's funny because the last like couple months, maybe a couple years, I've been thinking a lot about the visual, how it feels, what the period I'm in now, like the transitional period I am in now, that I think the last 6 months while I've been traveling and figuring out like what the next few years of my life looks like, what it feels like, what the feeling looks like, how it feels. Okay, does that make sense? I hope so. Come with me. Stay with me on this trip. Okay, so it feels like a lot of my friends who are in relationships, some of which, this can be anyone, I'm not just talking about straights, though there is a disproportionate representation of what I'm about to say in the straights, okay? But it's like this. It's like I see some of my friends, I see some people, or I've met some wonderful people, and then I meet their partners, and I go, oh, you're settling. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. No one told you. Oh, sorry. Ooh. And it's like, okay, it's like there's a really beautiful big couch, And the couch is like deceptively amazing because it's so wide and deep, and you sit in it and you slump into it and you almost start falling through the cracks of it. And so you end up so stuck in the back part of the crack that you actually can't get out because you're like, oh, this is so comfortable and this is so nice. And so in theory, you think you're comfortable, but then in practice, you go like, oh, I kind of can't breathe a little bit because I'm feeling like something's not right, but I am comfortable. So that's the people that I see who are living a life where I go like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you're very like, it's like good. It's like conventional. It's what you're supposed to be doing, which I love. I applaud if it's comfortable to you. And then I think of myself as sitting on a fold out chair that you have at a cheap wedding. And because it can only take like 45 kilos, I'm sitting there using a lot of my knees and calves to like hold my body up. So I feel like I'm constantly on edge because I'm kind of like, oh, am I supposed to be here? What should I be doing? I need to like make sure all of it doesn't crumble underneath me. Because in some ways my life does feel precariously like a fold up chair, like one of those white rickety ones that they rent for a lot of money, but it's like literally can't support like a baby. And then everyone's like, oh, we can fall throughout the whole ceremony. So they can't even focus on your love because they're just focusing on making sure that they don't eat shit and fall on their ass in the middle of a wedding in a beautiful dress. Is that relatable at all? I don't think so. So the point is that the man screamed when I cleared my throat in the back of that Uber. And that was my exit. That was my exit to New York City. Then I got here, and I've had just like a bunch of shows I'm doing. I don't know if anyone is listening to this who lives in London, or if you know anyone who lives in London. I'm doing a venue that's 150 seats on December 11. Let me tell you, I know 12 people, so I would really appreciate, spread the word. Let's get this kind of moving. You know what I mean? Let's get kind of a few more tickets, and they're £5. And in a cost of living crisis, £5, $10. I know not everyone can afford it, but come on, a couple of you don't buy a coffee one morning and then come see the show in London. Okay, so I had a couple shows in a row that were really fun. I had 2 nights, a bunch of shows. I had like 3 or 4 shows over 2 nights, and they were so fun. I was doing a bunch of new material. It was like young, fun people. It was like light, whatever. Then 10 p.m. my time, I take a phone call from Sydney. This chick asked to interview me for this like unique story, unique jobs, whatever. So I said, yeah, of course I can do that. We're on the phone. She's asked me all these questions. I'm in a good mood. I've just had a bunch of fun shows. I'm doing new material. The material's fun. It's silly. It's stupid. I'm answering these questions like like I'm a billionaire. I'm literally when was the last time you had a really hard gig? Hard gig? Like, who's having a hard gig? I'm running my mouth. I mean, to the point where it's just obnoxious, but I'm having a good time. I'm throwing out anecdotes. I'm telling her, yeah, sure, there are some hard gigs, but nothing touches the sides. La la la, confident. I mean, think about the most confident day in your period cycle, not the period itself, but like in the entire, when you're like in the, I don't know where it is, wherever you sit. I feel like I'm physically strongest like the week, like 5 days after I finish my period. I go to the gym and I'm like, She-Hulk is in town. The Hulk. If a beam was to fall down, I got you, bitch. I'm in the right phase of my period cycle, of my month. And I could fly through the sky and cut a bitch. Psychotic. So I'm talking to her like I am literally like, I don't know, the biggest superstar. Cracking myself and her up, killing it. The next night I go to do a show, and this show is at like a pretty old school club, but I've done it before. I did it once when I was here a couple months ago, and so I'm like, okay, I get it. Once I've been on stage one time, it's kind of like I feel like I get the vibe of the space. So I had gone on stage the one time a couple months ago, had a good time, a little bit of struggle, whatnot, but that happens. In certain kinds of environments, different audiences are attracted to different places based on so many things: location, cost, reputation, even branding. There's a club here that is typically attracting like 20s and 30s because it's really cheap, the drinks are cheap, and it's like high energy fun. And a lot of comedians who perform at that club will put clips online, and because of that, because it attracts all these young people because they're the ones who are watching online, versus this other club which I was doing, which is older. It's got an institution name. People go there, and it's very successful people throughout time in London. It's one of the original places, so it attracts like an older, more established crowd. The ticket's more expensive. It's in a different part of the city, so it gets some tourists, stuff like that. So keep in mind, I'm riding the high of that interview. I'm riding the high of the last 48 hours. I'm thinking I'm untouchable. And when I tell you I go and bomb so hard, it was crickets. I have not had a situation, they just hated me from the start. There was not much I could do. It was so bad to the point where the guy who runs the tech booth, who they don't usually cross the line and talk to you unless you're mates with them. Like in Sydney at the comedy club there, I will chat with the tech guys because they're right by the door and they're lovely and they're fun and they've been there forever. But I don't know this man who works at the tech booth at this club. He comes into the green room. He crosses the threshold to come up to me and be like, look, it's a Christmas crowd. I'm like, oh my God. He's like doing the dad thing of trying to build me back up. He's like, it's a Christmas crowd. And, you know, it's just, it was okay. And I was literally like, I think I'm going to hang myself from the, I was like, this is a nightmare. And I was like, yeah, no worries, like whatever. But it's good because sometimes you just have to be humbled and it doesn't feel good. You never want to feel like, you never want to be humbled, but you know what? It kept me, it got me back in fighting shape because then that was the other day. And then I was like, okay, I've got a few shows. I've got to bounce back, not for anyone else but for me. So then I just came out fucking swinging because I felt like the underdog. I literally was like, everyone must be talking about this, everyone would know, everyone's got to be talking about it, everyone's got to know that things aren't good for me right now. And so there is a power to vengeance that people underestimate, and we are taught to be like, oh, an eye for an eye, you shouldn't, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Good. As long as you're blind, I don't care if I'm blind too. This is the thing about vengeance and pettiness and kind of whatever drives you. I don't care what's in your tank as long as the tank is fueling you moving forward. That's what I realize as I've gotten older. And I know most people when they get older, they get more reasonable and they get more calm and they get more understanding of other people. Fuck off. I don't care. I don't care as long as the world, if I'm burning, you're coming with me, sweetie. If I'm going down, I'm dragging you with me. So then I had a bunch of really good gigs just because I was like, I'm going to swing. And I did, and I swung. So anyway, that was my humbled moment for this week. Now, the final point I want to talk about is men. And I know that I always talk about this, but you know what? I've been really reflecting on that recently because I was thinking about it in the way of like, it is one of my biggest point of differences in the world. That is what I am thinking about. It is what I am noticing. It's like I literally traveled from Australia to various different countries and cities in the last 6 months. And every single place I get to, I feel like an explorer or like an anthropologist who's like, huh. So they have them here too, and they are doing weird things here too. So it's unavoidable for me to not think about them. And here's the thing, right? It might be like, oh God, women, and like, especially with comedy, a lot of women talk about men, a lot of men talk about women on stage. But here is at the heart of that. You should want me to talk about it. You think lesbians who don't have a function or need for men in their life give a shit about the male loneliness epidemic or men's happiness or men's psychology or men, period? No, they have no use for it. You want the straights. You want the women who have love and hate on the same side of the same coin, two sides of the same coin. You want me fascinated by these boys. I should be trying to burrow a hole in their brains to figure out what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how I can be a part of it. That is important. Yes, I don't want to always be talking about them. No, I don't want to always have to understand them, but they fascinate me to no end, and that is interesting. And they fascinate me not because of them, but also because of my reaction to them, and that is interesting. It is so funny being in a new place because when I'm here, I'm walking around and I'm like, I know you look like the ones we have, but you're kind of like a variant of of the same disease. It's like how COVID transforms into different things, you know. And I've heard this on TikTok and in other places. But for example, people in Europe or kind of the UK, I guess, are much more forward about hitting on women, whereas in like Australia, I've seen so many TikToks and people talk about like men will not come up to women. Now, fascinating. They are the same here. They are the same there. They're men. They all have penises, balls. That's one kind of man. Why is your behavior different here? What about the environment has changed? That's kind of like looking at monkeys from two different continents and being like, now why is your nose long? You know, isn't that amazing? I need to go back to university. I could teach a course. On them. Not that I understand them, but from the little things that I've picked up, I feel like I monitor them. And I like that. I think that's fun. I think someone should monitor them. I think that is half of a relationship. It's like, I want a boyfriend who's like monitoring me. And it's like, I've noticed that you love coats. What's that about? You know what I mean? I think that's glorious. I've got a friend, and he and I were hanging out. He comes over to my house and we're sitting there, whatever, and he makes some food. And I'm watching him and I'm thinking, this is attractive, watching him make food. Not because of the food, but because, call me old-fashioned, call me crazy. I guess I just don't expect a man to like be capable in the kitchen. Not because I haven't seen that. I mean, a lot of the most famous chefs are men. And isn't that interesting? For women, it's like a job that's implied, that's like part of the domestic chores. And yet when men do it, it's like they're culinary chefs who get Michelin stars. Something to think about. I'm sitting there, we're chatting because we're talking about comedy stuff. And he's making himself some food. And he's like doing everything like in this like you know, he went to get an olive out of the container, and instead of just kind of chucking it back, he gets a little teaspoon. So now this big 6-foot man is like using a tiny little teaspoon to like take a little olive and like eats it. And I was like, that's so cute. Why is that cute? I don't know why that's cute. I just think that's funny. He makes himself a little sandwich. He sits. We're chatting the whole time. But I'm watching him because women can multitask. Okay. So I'm on one level, I'm talking to him and I'm invested. And on the other, I'm watching him literally like I'm taking notes, like an anthropological study. I'm like in a natural habitat with him, or more so he's in my natural habitat because it's a kitchen. He's a man. Hey, yo, and I'm a woman. Hey, yo. That's a joke about sexism. So, and women being in the kitchen. So he makes himself his food. He makes his little sandwich. He sits down, he eats his little sandwich. And I'm literally like, and he's, mind you, food falling out of his mouth. And he goes, you want some? I go, no, I don't want tuna on dry bread. I'm good. Thanks, bro. He finishes his little sandwich. He cleans all the dishes. Now, yes, of course, he's a guest in my home. But as a woman who grew up in a house where, for example, my father is saved in a friend. So a friend of mine stayed with me and my family for a little bit. And my mum always makes fun of my dad by being like, Peter, like you've left the crumbs on the kitchen table. My dad will eat something and he does a clean, but he does a man clean where it's kind of like one big swipe. You know that man clean? Whereas a woman clean is kind of like it's more smooth and it's kind of more catching everything. So a man clean is kind of like a broad stroke just across, and it means that you're missing the stuff in between the broad strokes where you're just pulling your arm kind of forward. But a woman is doing like a kind of like like every single, she's like, you know, doing every single line. Now, if you can't see me, I am imitating with my hand, so I don't know how else to explain it. But the woman clean is, you know, she's doing each row. Okay. The man is kind of just throwing his arms around like a monkey. Okay. And whatever catches in the cloth he's holding is what he gets in that clean. So my dad, he does the man clean. Okay. And that means crumbs are left. Now, when my friend was staying over, my mum says to my dad, Peter, why didn't you clean the kitchen table? And he says, the crumbs aren't mine, they're Annie's, and blames it on our house guest. And my mum goes, no, they're not. So then Annie obviously stands up for herself. She's a lesbian, so she doesn't feel the need to kind of cower like a traditional woman. She goes, those aren't mine. So now Mr. and Mrs. Fuchs, my mum's like, how dare you blame it on someone else? You're blaming it on a 20-year-old kid. Well, not 20, she's like 30, but you get my point. Anyone compared to my parents is 20, okay? So my dad's now blaming it on a house guest that the crumbs are hers. So now Annie and my dad call each other Mr. and Mrs. Crumbs because they try to blame each other. And that's a beautiful relationship right there. My point being that my expectation of men is like they do the man clean, right? They leave crumbs everywhere. And I've lived with men before, not just my dad, but recreationally in other capacities. Not a man who's paying for the house, the roof over my head. But for example, whilst traveling, I've lived with various men now in the last 6 months. I've lived with them before when I've been on the road, when I lived in America, stuff like that. They are capable of living in a mess and they don't notice it. They're capable of living in clutter and they don't mind. Dishes pile up, it doesn't bother them. And I think there is I admire it. If I'm honest, I admire it because they can just like go on with their day. I have to do a hard reset of every surface and every part of my room before I can get on with my day. If my suitcase, if my cupboard, if my clothes, if wherever I am isn't tidy, neat, organized, I actually can't go on with my day. What is that? Why? I don't know. Is that why are men so grubby like that? So the point is, I'm watching this man eat his sandwich. He finishes his sandwich. He cleans the dishes. And yes, he's a guest in my home, so like you would assume he cleans the dishes. But my father is not a guest in his own home, and yet he leaves Mr. Crumbs around everywhere. So excuse me for expecting a man to have a bit of crumb kind of, offshoot. He picks up a cloth, he goes over the table, and he wipes the whole table down, does a woman wipe. And I literally go, what are you doing? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, you just wiped the table. And he goes, yeah. And I was like, I'm going to marry you. I was like, you are the perfect man because you have just a touch of woman in you. And I think that is kind of the secret, is you kind of, there's this whole soft boy kind of evolution happening where they're these like non-traditionally masculine, like men, like these men who are like a little more gentle. And this is a very nuanced, complicated conversation, but obviously there is a lot of like internalized sexism toward like a non-masculine, like kind of gruff man. But I'm so sorry. Those men are the ideal. They have a little bit of woman in them. They're soft, they're gentle, they clean up after themselves. I go, you're a perfect man because you're a little bit of a woman. Does that make me gay? I don't think so. Because all I'm saying is I'm valuing qualities in a man that a woman like, which is why people have discriminated against like queer people in the past, because they think that a man is not like, we're getting into the weeds of it and we don't have the time because this is a whole thing of its own. All I'm saying is I watched this man clean and I said, I'm in love with you. And I said, we've been friends for a while, but I'd like to make this relationship sexual. I did not actually say that, but I thought that for about 12 hours. So it's been a confusing kind of couple of weeks. I'm not going to lie to you. Between scaring the man in the Uber and then, just being humbled by an audience and the man coming from the green room. I mean, I'm just getting tongue-tied now because I'm thinking about all the men who have kind of kept me busy for the last couple of weeks, and it's been nuanced and complicated. So that is the corporate memo update on what's going on in my life. Let me know what's going on in your life. I think that's enough for this episode. We'll have probably one more episode or two in London, and then we'll have our year review. We'll have our year in review. We'll have our Spotify Jess Fuchs Wrapped. I got to think of a name. What the Fuchs Wrapped? Well, maybe we'll do What the Fuchs Wrapped. I don't even know what we talk about. But I cannot wait to be back in my own space so I can be screaming and shouting with you guys, because I just feel like I'm self-contained. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm like a small little rodent in the corner of somewhere and I just can't be let out. And it's kind of like scary. This to me is more sinister. To sit like this and whisper like this is more sinister than a woman screaming. Because someone screaming, at least I know what I'm dealing with you. And the idea that the people sitting next to me in the bedroom just there have heard this whole thing is embarrassing. Even though I am going to release this on the internet. Why? Why is it embarrassing to like inconspicuously do something in front of someone, but then I'll put it out in front of the whole world? I mean, truly anyone, they could listen to this themselves on their own accord. I've got to go. Now, if you happen to be in London, if you happen to know someone in London, we have shows. We have one big show in London. Please, God, send people. Please, I need it. Have a beautiful week. Let me know if anything's come up in your week. I really hope that this corporate-wide review has done something for you. If not, season's greetings.